This is the new iXSR Spektrum radio, and it is a $700 Android-based flagship radio that Spektrum has just released. Today, let's go over the details of what this radio is selling you. What's going on, everyone? Again, today here with the new Spektrum radio, the iXSR. Spektrum up to this point, for many of their radios, I don't want to say all because I'm sure that I don't know all of them, but they've often put a number in the name to signify the number of channels the radio has. DX5, DX6R, DX6 Rugged, it's pretty simple how they came up with the name. This one with the X, not so simple. X does not mean 10. This is still a 6-channel radio. So just before you think that they're bringing in something different there, or that they're using that as their naming convention, that's not the case. But this radio still has a lot of bullet points that we're going to cover. So we're going to go over all those today. I'm going to give you my initial thoughts on it. Before we do that, though, let's go over what you're going to pull out of the box. The radio we've already got here, but as you see, the box, we're not doing a typical unboxing, but this is how you're going to get it. It's got a sleeve over top of a reusable foam, or, kind of foam type carrying case. It comes with a carrying case. It is foam, it's rigid foam. It's not like a super soft foam, so it will give you some protection. It's got a handle on the top and a couple of latches that will let you get into the case itself. So when it ships in here, it's nicely protected, and then there's also a number of other additional parts that come with it. I feel like if you're gonna buy a $700 radio, this case is going to be okay. It's going to get you there for a while, but you're probably going to go to like a nice hard case or something in your race setup that you're really going to protect this radio. So this probably isn't a forever case, but it'll get you by until maybe you get one that's got, the right fitted foam or whatever that may be. So I think that typical buyers of this will appreciate it, but probably move on before too long. Inside of this, we also have the SR515 receiver that's included with it. You've got a USB-C cable, as this radio does have USB-C, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and the SD card, all kinds of things in there. But that'll help you there because you'll be able to update firmware in a number of ways, likely, like we talked about, either wirelessly or wired, I assume. We also have a bag of goodies here. In there, we've got a second steering wheel. We've got an angle adapter for the actual steering wheel as well. We also get a couple of different springs in here for the throttle and the steering, so that you can make the steering stiffer and the throttle looser. I believe that's the two combinations that they included in there. You also have another grip in case you want to change out the back of the grip here to fit your hand better. That'll be up to you and how you want it to feel. You got some covers here, as this is a left-handed or right-handed radio, as most high-end radios like this are. But when you do that swap over, you'll take the steering setup and you'll move it to the other side. You'll take this cover off, and then you'll replace the other side with one that's fit to that, that doesn't just flip because there's logos on it and things like that. So not as simple as just taking it and put it on the other side. Same here with this button pack on the side there. It's got a knob as well as a 3-position button that can be flipped to the other side. Technically, you could just flip that button set over if you wanted it over there, or flip both the steering wheel and that, or just the steering wheel, whatever you think. But it does give you a little bit of customization as far as that goes. In that case, I showed that it came with this quick start guide, and that's it. It's just a quick start guide. It's not a full manual. So there was no hard copy manual that came with this. So I don't have all of the details of the manual that I expect are available when you do have the full copy. Now, right in the software here, there's a link that'll take you right, and it shows you right where the manual is. You can click it and it shows that it's download, or it can download the PDF that it's pointed at. But at this point, it doesn't appear that that's available, likely because the link, the listing of this radio and that link is not active yet until the actual release. So I don't have all the information that I would like to have to be able to really learn all of the programming of this. So really what I've been able to do is just fiddle around with the menu for some time. It's got a lifetime counter on it. It's at 1 hour and 34 minutes currently. So that's how much time I've been sitting here, just touching through all the buttons, trying things, you know, looking at the monitor, seeing how those functions are being affected, and so on. But it's just that. It's just me having to fiddle through the menus. But this is Android based. It's got a 4.5-inch touchscreen that is nice and, you know, it works well. The touchscreen is responsive. The brightness seems to be good here inside where I've been trying to learn how to use this. So that side of it is, you know, a pleasant experience. And the actual like programming and navigation of this also is like very intuitive. You go to set up a new model and it's like just asking you questions like, is it this type of car? Is it this type of car? Do you want to do this or do you want to do this? Does it have auxiliary channels? Yes or no? Does it, you know, what kind of functions do you want on those? Is it 4-wheel steer? Yes, turn it on. What channel's your 4-wheel steering on? Channel 3 or auxiliary 1, however they want to call it with those receivers. So stuff like that is pretty easy to get through. So that's nice. You have that ability when you've got a display like this and an Android backbone to help to control that. Now, the Android backbone is also a bit odd. There's some things that it causes that are not my favorite. So when you go to power it off, for one, you go there, it takes you to like the power off screen, but one of them's emergency so that you can like call 911 because it thinks it's a phone, or you can hit power off or restart in case you're just trying to restart your radio. So if you do power it off, shut down is pretty basic. It just turns it off, right? You can see the lights are still on, so it's not powered off yet. Takes a second. Powering on though, it's like a 60-second power on time. So if I press and hold this, you get this screen. Now this screen just sits here and kind of flashes for a while as everything goes through. And we're just gonna leave this kind of in this unedited fashion, and you'll see exactly. 60 seconds isn't that long, but it's also something that I'm not totally used to with my radios. Usually they just kind of start pretty quickly. After you go through this, it'll give you this little notification that says tablet starting. That's what that's doing right there. Tablet is starting, powered by Android. So you get this, then it goes to this main screen. Now you wait for a second, and then it'll give you the actual software right there, starting the raceware, I believe is what it called, or just, yeah, Spektrum raceware. And now you're at your main screen. Having Android has its pros and cons to that. Obviously, it does give you a lot of ability to make this look and navigate pretty easily because you can use that strong backbone and program on top of it. But you still have all that other stuff underneath. You can actually get out of this software and just go to like the Android, the Android setup itself. You can just like kind of scroll up from the bottom and then hit the regular or whatever that square button is. And then I'm just at like a regular Android main screen. I got a Google search bar at the top. Gmail is preloaded. I got Google Chrome and the Play Store. This does say that you can put other Play Store apps on there. I'm not 100% sure what apps you may want to run on your radio otherwise. You know, I haven't really looked at all of the apps that are pre-installed, but there's a number of them. You know, Adobe Acrobat, which is your PDF reader. Like I was saying, the manual can be opened right on your radio. So if you're trying to learn how to program some stuff, you can just do it right on there if you want, if that's the most convenient way for you. But, you know, a bunch of other Google apps. YouTube is pre-installed, sound recording, you can take screenshots. A lot. I just wish that like that. I don't know if it's needed. I almost feel like it could just be locked out more and just make it a radio. Just be a radio. But, you know, there's probably going to be some power users of this radio that are going to find ways or find reasons why that is going to work well. Also, it might allow for those firmware upgrades to be easier. But also, it's, I don't know. Sometimes I just want my radio to be my radio. It's a little odd. This isn't the first time either that Spektrum has done an Android based. I believe that the DX6R, could be wrong again, but the DX6R was an Android based radio like this that had some of those functions. And I don't know that it stayed around or was as popular, maybe for some of those reasons. Now, some of the things that I think maybe were problems on that, I think were addressed when going through this one. It does have a massive battery in there. A 10,500 milliamp battery is in this radio. Now mine came fully charged, I believe, because I don't remember charging it. So fully charged, and I've had it on for now 1 hour and 40 minutes, and I'm at 79% battery. So that's pretty good. I feel like that battery is last decent. Now, have I been using it in the field and steering things like that? No, but I think that it's still probably been broadcasting just the same. It's not in like a, display only mode or anything like that. When you go through the initial setup, you'll hit model setup, and that will take you to whatever you want to name the model of the crawler, or basher, boat, motorcycle, whatever it is. This is meant to be a do-it-all. Then from there, it gives you a list of all of the different receivers that you may be using. And then from there, that'll help you make sure that you've got the right channels available, the right protocol, all that type of stuff, whether it's a telemetry receiver or not. You just scroll through this big list and find which one is going to be the one that you want. Like I said, it comes with the SR515, so that's the one I'm going to select. And then you hit next. Now, from there, it says does this model have an external telemetry module rather than one that's built into the receiver, anything like that? So no, we don't have anything like that. Asks you if it's an electric or nitro car. Very simple. Reverse or no reverse. I'm assuming a crawler or a trail truck or buggy, some sort of thing, buggy in my terms, like one of these, not buggy like many of you may be thinking with a race car. So I'm saying reverse capable. Single or front and rear motors like MOAs, which are, competition style crawlers, like one of these where you've got a motor on each axle with dual ESCs. So obviously it's got some additional features built in. And then steering, single or dual. Now, I did play around with this. I'm going to select dual for the purpose of what we're going to talk about. Dual steering asks you what channel you're going to put in that additional servo, channel 1 or auxiliary 1, which would be probably channel 3. Then does it have any other functions like a winch, things like that? We're just going to say yes. We're going to say it has one in auxiliary 2. What would you like to name this? We can pull a name, select. I'm just going to type in winch. It does have the vibrating feedback on the actual keyboard factory. You can turn that off if you like, which I probably would. But it's got the full like Android style keyboard with a responsive touchscreen, so it does make typing in things way easier than sitting there scrolling through a wheel. That is nice. I do appreciate that. Not that I'm doing that all that often, but when you do, well, that's a lot nicer than the alternative. So does it have anything else? We're going to say no. I'm going to say winch is fine. So rear steer, winch, not using the final one. Save settings. With that, the four-wheel steer is working in the kind of opposing method that you would expect, but right on the display it says DSMR and an 11 millisecond frame rate. I can't change any of that here. It's just giving me that information back. In this case, it's driving backwards. You can easily just hit throttle, go down, and there's a big reverse button. It's very easy to find the endpoints and the sub trims, channel reversing. It's all on one screen. It's very easy and visual, and just plus minus buttons that most anybody is going to be able to understand. But also, this is the top end radio. This isn't necessarily beginner focused, but that doesn't mean that it's not still just nice to have it be fairly intuitive, especially when you don't have a manual to start with. On that same main screen, you can scroll down, you can have your steering rate and your throttle, reverse, traction control is on there, trim settings, servo speed, all of that just right on your throttle and reverse. Next, I go to the steering menu, and this is where I'm finding an issue for me already. Now, steering, like I have here, is four-wheel steering, and you can see like right now, it's doing that opposing method, which is fine. That's what a lot of people assume four-wheel steering should be used for. Now, that is a pre-mixed. Often, if I'm running four-wheel steer, I want to do it completely independent. But even if you don't and you want to run this style, you may want to have the opposed and then the ability to also go to crab walk easily through like a toggle, or turn it all off and only have front steer, things like that. Now, you go to the steering menu and you can go at the top, there is a steering for the regular servo, and then there's an aux for the rear steer. And on there, you can go down, scroll down towards the bottom. Again, you'll have all of those endpoint adjustments and sub trims, all of that stuff. There's also one that's a steering override button, which I thought was interesting. So you can program a button to that, and if you do that, it just limits both of them to whatever value you say, front and rear together. It doesn't affect only the rear, even if you're only on the auxiliary menu. Then there's an all-wheel steer mode area, and that says opposed, crab front, front, or rear. Great. That's what we want. We want to be able to toggle through those. Well, I can select it and toggle which one I want, but there is no ability to program a button to change that mode. It doesn't list it anywhere. So again, I don't know if it just doesn't have it yet. Maybe they overlooked that. The people that were writing the firmware for this didn't fully understand how people really use four-wheel steer in the field, or not. Or I just don't know because I don't have a manual yet. Getting past just setting up the car in whatever basic way that you may need or want to get into, there's also some other more advanced functions. Launch control. So like for drag racing, you can set it up, and you can set it up with up to 7 programmable steps through a time range. I tried to maximize as many points as I could get in there, and once I had 7, it said I had reached the max. And with that, you can program the time and the throttle percentage along there to create your custom map, so that for drag racing you can just pin it, hit the button, and it will do your pre-programmed throttle map for you. There's also things like a boost button and what curve you actually want to have selected, so you can have multiple different setups, probably for different traction environments, different courses, whatever it may, tracks, not courses, but it's pretty easy to program through on that throttle, the throttle curves and the drive. So drive modes on there, you've got a number of different ones. You can add them and label them however you want. You can set a bunch of parameters based on that and toggle between them. The one thing that I think may be possible with drive modes is that you use that to set up the different configurations for like your steering options, and then you toggle through those to change what version of the steering you want to use. That's my best guess. That's my best assumption at this point. I just haven't fully investigated all of it, as I'm just trying to figure it out as I go. You do have the ability to add custom mixes. You can go in there, add a mix. On this, you have your source channel, which is the channel it's reading, and the target channel, which is the channel that it will affect. So you can have it say like, when the steering is cranked, reduce my throttle a little bit, or, have a knob affect the output of the winch speed. Those are types of things that you can actually do fairly easy, and their ability to turn that on is also pretty easy. You can do it always active, you can activate it on a button, or you can activate it by a drive mode. Not bad. Another function that they are proud of is all of their LEDs. Now you can see along the side here, those in LED strip. There's a light/LED section, and you can go in and it's called the light bars, these. And right now it's on orange. I can select it, turn it to green, and hit save, and it turns green, blue. It's got a bunch of different colors that you can select from. One other that you have is right here on the front. It's a little flashlight. There you go. Now, it's not the brightest. Like that's the flashlight. Oh, this is my cell phone. So that's significantly brighter. That's just a regular iPhone flashlight. If you're looking for something on the ground in front of you, things like that, it's probably can be helpful if you don't have your, maybe you can't find your cell phone. It'll help you find your cell phone so you can find a slightly brighter flashlight. But it's got a flashlight at least. Tactical. You can decide when to turn that on or off, the timing. You turn it on for a minute, 5 minutes, 30 seconds, whatever you want. But to turn it on, it looks like you have to come into this menu and tap that. I don't see a way to program a button to activate that flashlight other than just coming in, go into your menu, go into the lights menu, turn it on. I don't know that I would expect much different, but something to note. Now, a radio review, I feel like it needs to be more of a long-term thing than having this radio on for 2 hours and 1 minute. I can't call this a review. It's a first look at best, as all I've done is try to learn the programming and drive a very tiny crawler around my desk a little bit. And I still haven't fully grasped the programming, although I'm sure that most or almost all of the functionality lives inside of here. You just have to really get into it. I solely used Futaba radios for over a decade, and only recently did I decide to change up my main radio choice. Now, will this new $700 Android-based radio swing me away from my most current choice? I don't know. There's a handful of things that I do like. I like how responsive the screen is. I like the color screen and the detail that it has, and the ease of programming that can then bring to you with the very easy graphic interface. At the same time, there's things that it then brings that I am weary about. Android-based. I'm a little weary. Maybe I probably shouldn't be weary about that at all. I know, Android is a very commonly used thing. It's all over. There's millions of products out there that are using that software. But my radio for my RC car, I just don't know that it's what I imagine it needs. So that's why I get a little bit weary about that. I don't know if it's going to really suck down the battery more than what I'm experiencing, because after 2 hours of, on time, it's at 73%. It still seems pretty reasonable to me. Only being 6 channels. At the price tag for this, in the world that I live in, crawlers and multi-function things, like, we can sometimes get ridiculous with the amount of additional accessories we like to add. And I feel like putting only 6 channels into your flagship radio is getting close to being not enough. Not necessarily for me in all cases, but I feel like it would be nice if this was a 7, 8, 10 channel radio. And more than anything, the cost. $700 is a lot of money. Now, the radio is the one thing that you use every time you're using one of your RC cars, and it can handle all of them, presumably, because $250 is a lot. So, it's the one thing that you're holding, that it's, that's your interaction with the vehicle. So spending money on it, if you've got a big collection of expensive cars, that can make a lot of sense. But again, I don't do a lot of radio reviews. I've done a lot of radio how-to stuff in the past and some radio reviews here and there. But I decided to do this one because I see what they're aiming for. I see, their execution and why they decided to do a lot of things the way they decided to do them. The programmability of any button being any function, things like that is nice, and it falls in with what some other people are doing now as well. But they're gonna have to get over that $700. They also have done the Android thing once in the past and obviously got away from that for quite some time before they decided to revisit it. So people who've had experience with both, that's gonna be the real interesting part of this. I hadn't really used a Spektrum radio much, other than the ones that I got with my RTR vehicles, much until the last year or two. And then I decided to start, using more radios more often rather than just always only picking up the one that I was the most comfortable with. Just because I feel like it is worth it to experience the other ones more often and not just keep everything so focused into only one view. But I'm really interested to hear your views on what you think of this here soon. So comments on the radio, criticisms on my overview, high level look at it without fully diving in, I totally understand. But I feel like sitting here and pushing buttons, going through every menu and trying to understand it is a better experience for me than it is to just go out and drive it and use 2 channels or 3 channels at a time. Everybody learns differently. this is how I have to do it. But I'm sure that we'll revisit this in one form or another in following videos, and we'll see exactly how I'm liking it. I'm gonna put a link below to where you can find all the information on this in case you're interested or you just want to dive right in. You know it's the one that you want. Fantastic. In that case, you'll find that information below. Otherwise, I bet there's a bunch of other people that received this, maybe some that had the time to really dedicate into finding a bunch of setup information, using it out in the field, testing battery life, range, things like that. But until I have the chance to do that, hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, subscribe if you're not already, and hit the notification bell so you see the videos as soon as they get uploaded. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.